In the same fashion that Star Trek fans are called Trekkies, what are Knight Rider fans known as?
I don't know. Maybe 90s.
Nerds, Michael, with a K.
Nerds! Turbo!
Be sure to take a peek at our exclusive merch, not found anywhere else, like our Knight Rider Historians and Semi-Restoration Team branded apparel, along with our line of Garthware, trademark pending. T-shirts, hoodies, even coffee mugs in a variety of colors and styles to suit every taste. Your purchase directly supports this channel and helps us to continue bringing you awesome content. View the merch below this video and click on the link in the description for our entire catalog.
Next on an all-new Knight Rider, some hard-headed murderers have their sights on Michael.
Good grief.
When the heat is on, are Kit and Michael cooked?
We're burning up.
Next.
Production 58630, Knight and Nerd. This episode was written by Larry Molen and directed by George Fenady. It originally aired on NBC Sunday night, 8 p.m. on March 17th, 1985. It actually had a slightly different title in that the ampersand between Knight and Nerd was actually the word and. Just a little piece of trivia for you. This was the 59th episode to air, but the 52nd to be produced. The synopsis reads as follows. Michael must protect a woman after a group of ninjas kill her father in search of a rare crystal. Okay, shall we dig in? Within the opening minutes of the episode, Michael is driving along and ends up coming to the rescue, or the aid, I guess, of Allie and Thomas Raymond. Now, in this scene, we're looking at the Season 3 dedicated insert car. We've talked about this a number of times in past episodes, but Season 3 featured this specific Trans Am. It was the only season to have this specific car as the insert car. And when we talked to Jack Gill years ago, we asked him about this specific car and why it was pretty much only used for insert shots. Now, I should say earlier in Season 3, like in Night in Disgrace and Knights of the Fastlane, we do see the outside. But for the most part, if it's an insert car, it kind of is only an insert car. And here's why. Here's what Jack Gill had to say. We used a dedicated insert car because back then we had to pump so much light into the inside of the car so you could see the actors. But the problem is it melted the paint on the outside of the car, and you really couldn't use that as an extra vehicle because the paint would bubble up. They don't use those type of lights anymore, but back then they had 8 lights mounted to the car. They would generate intense heat, especially in the summer. And Jack then recalls sitting in the car and watching the paint bubble up and melt the rubber molding around the windshield. That's how hot it was. There were 7 cars, by the way, used in this episode for KITT. We have the roll-caged acrylic window jump car, the Season 3 hero car, the right-hand blind drive car, the hardtop stunt car, another general-purpose T-top stunt car, the left-hand blind drive car, and then this Season 3 insert car. Michael's coming to the aid of Thomas, who you can see is laying on the ground there. This is not Hasselhoff. And this is not Hasselhoff. So Hasselhoff got a break that day. Here we have kind of a rare up-close look at the hardtop stunt car's front nose. And you can see, when you see this car from far away, you can see that the bumper isn't quite fitting and there's some gaps in there. But when you see it up close, it's really interesting. You can see how much of a gap there really is here between the hood and the bumper. And the reason for that is this is a fiberglass bumper, not a rubber one. They did have rubber ones, but this specific one is fiberglass. And the problem is, as they cast the parts out of the molds, and then they'll make new molds based on cast parts. So this nose you're looking at here could be a multi-generation, removed from the original mold. And just over time, and just the way it's mounted, these bumpers are normally only mounted on the fenders. So this whole center section, especially with the heat and how fast they were popping these bumpers out and probably not letting them cure the whole way, that caused the sag in the middle. On a lot of these cars, they'd actually place wood blocks underneath the bumper right here and right here to prop up. They'd wedge it between the bumper and the metal impact bar, which is the stock Trans Am impact bar, which is behind the fog lights here. And that would prop the front, the top of the bumper up to kind of make it more in line. But you can tell this car either doesn't have the wood blocks under there or they're not tall enough. And you can also see the scanner here is kind of sunk down in the middle, causing this gap here. But again, this is a hardtop stunt car. This was 1985. So, on a little CRT TV that we had back then, no one's going to notice these details. But thankfully, because of Blu-ray, we can notice them today. And making his one and only appearance in Knight Rider, we have Ari Gross as Elliott Sykes, the so-called nerd. When you read the script, the description of the first time we see Elliott Sykes is as follows. Elliott is dressed like your quintessential nerd. White shirt with top button buttoned, pocket filled with pens, calculator on his belt, and glasses which are currently steamed over in the smoky room. Elliott's laugh is described as nervous and asthmatic. And actually, if you listen to his laugh in the episode, that's exactly what it sounds like, nervous and asthmatic. And you can see, just like the description, there's the calculator on his belt, there's the pens in his pocket. And this is one of the extremely rare times in the series that we see the lounge area in the semi. This set back here was not built until a few episodes into season 2. Now, I know in Goliath we see this set, but Goliath was not the first episode filmed for season 2. The production filmed 5 episodes of season 2, took a 5.5-week break, and then came back and filmed Goliath. During that break is when they refreshed the semi interior completely, and when they built this lounge area. They started to refresh the front area of the semi in those first 5 episodes, but it wasn't complete until that break. But we see this lounge area in Goliath. Here we saw it in Night of the Drones. We'll see it again in Deadly Nightshade. There's a few appearances here and there. And now we're at Matt Gifford's secret lab, I guess, or Vanessa Mary Sutton's lab, one of the two, testing the laser. This is Modern Props heaven, right? Modern Props was the company that rented all these futuristic sci-fi props to the show. But what I wanted to point out was this one in the background. This is an identical model in terms of the structure as the unit that's in the back of the semi, with all the blinking lights. These panels are different, but this is the same structure. They made, I think, 4 different versions of this panel. The one you see in the semi, this one, and then 2 others where the shape's the same. They just insert different types of lights or buttons in them. Although I don't believe this ion refraction indicator is a modern prop. I think this was probably built specifically for the episode. Could be wrong, but any of you guys out there recognize this from any other productions? Maybe it wasn't built just for Knight Rider. Michael then arrives at the Takeshi temple, and we see this strong-headed man just bust through the concrete block with his head. We see Michael pull up, which, by the way, if you notice, one of Kit's scanner bulbs is out right here. You see it scanning back and forth. This one is out. That's all right. And what else do we see? Gas is $1.09 in California. That's pretty impressive. What I wouldn't give for $1.09 gas today. Anyways, so we see this, and then we see Michael walking up to the temple. This is the, I'm probably going to mispronounce this, but the Wat Tai Temple on Coldwater Canyon Avenue in Los Angeles. Here it is today. Still looks the same. And hey, look at that. The Shell gas station that we see right there is still in business. Is Century 21. Let's see what else is over here. There's a Mart, Medical Center, Century 21. Any of those still in business? No. Looks like those are all new. But the Shell perseveres. So just out of curiosity, what's the gas price? Is it still $1.09? You guys are with me, right? Let's just check. What's the gas price? $4.64. Guess they had to pay for that new sign somehow. All right, anyways, let's keep moving. Back at the semi, Elliott is demonstrating his laser refractive experiment here. We see him light the candle, and then all of a sudden this laser shoots and ends up shooting Devon's trophy, right? So a couple things. First of all, this is one of the kind of rare occasions in Knight Rider where we see visual effects, right? And I'm not talking about like insert shots on the monitor on KITT for the stage dash. I'm talking about actual like effects that you would see on a sci-fi show. And there's not many of them. And in fact, one of our viewers recommended to us, I think it's a great idea, we're going to do a video specifically on all the different types of visual effects shots that Knight Rider used over the course of 4 years. So that's coming up at some point soon. But take a look at this. This laser, if you will, was activated by Elliott lighting this candle. And we move forward, and Devon is now picking up his cricket trophy that's now melted. The laser's gone, but the candle is still burning. Go figure. Jump to Michael at Matt Gifford's boutique, and apparently in the back they just have this knife throwing setup, which is fine. I'm sure you guys know this, but no one was actually throwing these knives at Hasselhoff's head. They actually pop out from the wall behind them. And in fact, if you watch this slowly, very, very slowly, see that little dent right there? You can see it coming out, and then it stops. So clearly Hasselhoff wasn't in any danger, but that's how that trick is done. I'm sure you guys knew that. Outside of Gifford's Body Boutique, KITT's running a search here, and once again, this is a list we've seen a number of times in Season 3. These are names of some of the insert crew. At least one of them is, right? Our friend Eric Vesper. We pointed this out every time. Eric's an awesome guy. We talked to him, I don't know, maybe about a year ago about his work on the insert shots in Knight Rider. So I'd be willing to bet a lot of these are insert guys as well. All right, take a look at this. We have a great scene here, a turbo boost about to happen. What do we see before we discuss this actual scene? Well, we've got a police officer here stopping traffic, right? We've got some of the camera crew right here off to the side. Looks like they're down on their knees getting ready to film, and traffic's being held up. Also, they can film this scene. So this was at the intersection. Actually, you can see Blick Street and Vineland Avenue in Los Angeles. So we have this worker working on this tower. And in fact, if we look at it today, there's that exact same tower. Hasn't changed. This is where the jump took place. And when you look at it on street view in real life, you can see this is kind of narrow, right? This almost looks like it's not a one-way street. You can see the dashed lines there. But it's narrow, right? So, but that's nothing for Jack Gill. But when you look at it here, it looks like the street's a little bit wider. So we have the roll-caged acrylic window jump car jumping. And then we get this great point of view shot, and a couple things we see. There's the bolt right there holding on the hubcap, which was unique, I think, only to this car. It's the only one that had bolts to hold on the hubcaps. And then we can also see right here, there's a bolt. It almost looks like a bolt and a washer, or a rivet and a washer holding on this air extractor. And in fact, on most of the original Knight Rider cars that survive today, these air extractors are riveted on. So to see this is not surprising. Just another way that these things, they don't want them popping off whenever the car comes in for a hard landing. And then we see, from this angle, and you can clearly see the roll caged in here and the acrylic windows. And then we see the result of the laser burning off KITT's tire. Interestingly, apparently it only took out the tread and not the sidewalls. So clearly they took like a reciprocating saw and just cut this tire off and then put it on the car to make it look like the laser had melted the tire. But I don't know, this is, I'm pretty good at identifying which cars these are, but this is too close of a shot to be able to tell which car this is. Probably one of the stunt cars. Moving forward, we have Michael talking to Devon and Bonnie at the semi, and this is one of the very rare occasions in the show where we see their point of view talking to Michael, right? It's always you see them on the monitor in KITT. It's very rare you see the other end of the conversation. This is one of, is it only 2 times? I think they did it in Junkyard Dog, but it's very, very few times when you actually see the other point of view. And normally this computer is housed in one of the cubbies in the side of the semi. As you can see here in this insert shot, it's in one of the cubbies. But if we back up a scene, you can see for this shot, they actually removed that wall unit and removed the wall behind them so they could get this angle of filming. So you can see that the computer is actually not in its cubby, it's just sitting on a table. And then we move to this shot and you can see it's back in the cubby. All right, so Michael, we've fast forwarded a bit. Michael is now unconscious. KITT's coming to the rescue. This is the right-hand blind drive car. Very easy to see in this scene just how different. This is your stock PMD seat. This is the blind drive seat. You can see how much higher it is, how much wider it is, and you can see that, you know, it has to be higher so the stunt guy whose eyes would be right here can see out the windshield over the hood. And KITT protects Michael by driving over him, sure. And then we go to commercial break. What's interesting about this commercial break is the music behind it. We don't hear the normal dun 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 dun. Instead, it goes dun 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 dun, like almost adding to the danger of that scene. It's really neat, and if that's something you've never noticed, it's the one and only time in the entire series that that last note kind of goes up instead of down. Take a listen. Michael saved, of course. This is that kind of general purpose T-top stunt car that'll be with us through the end of the series. We see it has a small round stunt wheel. We can even see the dash right here is pretty ill-fitting, right? You got a gaps here, you got a giant gap here. It looks like a piece of the fiberglass might be missing, but again, it was a stunt car. They didn't care. And a couple things to note on this scene. First of all, we have our yellow Volkswagen Rabbit alert. Sorry, no white wire alert. Those are getting hard to find. But another neat thing about this whole scene, Hasselhoff does these 180s and burnouts in this scene. And if you look at it, it's pretty good drive. It's pretty impressive with the way he kind of spins the car around. But, you know, I guess when you're doing this now for 3 years as of the time this episode was filmed, you know, he gets pretty good at it. So the diamond exchange at the end. It took me a long time to find this location years ago when I was searching for it. Turns out it's literally in Universal Studios' backyard. In fact, where this SUV is parked is actually the Universal Studios Barham parking lot, the same location where they had Circus Major from Circus Nights and where they had the custom car show from Custom KITT. That's the exact same parking lot they're currently parked in. So if we look at it today, here's that building now. Obviously, it's obscured by trees. In fact, these trees that are small right here are now these giant trees right here. But if we turn around, they're not. That SUV is actually parked way over here in the Universal Studios parking lot right here. So we can see the other shot. So this is the parking lot where Circus Major was and where the custom car show was from Custom KITT. It was all in this parking lot right here. And I don't know if you can see, I don't know if this road up here is still there. It would be behind this fake building from, I think this is from the NBC show Superstore, if I'm not mistaken, which I think was now canceled. But that's that same hill that you see right here. And going back a scene, let's talk about this SUV. Don't know 100% sure, but this might be the exact same SUV, one of them. So they used a couple. They had like a hero one and a stunt one. But I think this is going to end up getting painted red and used in Night in Retreat in a few episodes. In fact, take a look at that license plate, 819TJD. Now take a look at this. 819TJD. It's the same model SUV. I don't think that's a coincidence. So I am relatively sure that this SUV is going to get painted and reused in Night in Retreat. And here's yet another example of visual effects in Knight Rider, right? Pretty cool ones. Again, we're going to do an episode completely dedicated to the visual effects in the show because I think it's neat. By the way, this is that hardtop stunt car. And then we cut to Sessoms and Slagle miniature. This is a miniature kit, miniature SUV. And if you look in the background, you got a miniature Mustang. There's a white Camaro. Move ahead with the SUV exploding. We actually have a Firebird here. These were all miniatures that were in the Sessoms and Slagle collection. In fact, I'm almost positive this is the same Firebird we see in a miniature shot from the Fall Guy, believe it or not. And this white Camaro, boy, I can't picture right now. We've seen this. I think we've seen it in Knight Rider before in the background. As a miniature, of course. And there's this great scene. This is the right-hand blind drive car. Michael gets out and the car is supposed to continue off frame. There's a great scene in the blooper reel where it's clear Hasselhoff's not in control and the blind driver is doing the blind driving. And it's pretty neat. Check it out.
Stop! What's going on? Whoa!
And once again, there's our yellow Volkswagen Rabbit making yet another appearance. And did you ever notice how this whole ending scene, all the footage is reversed? Look how Kitt's hood scoop is backwards there. And the night plate is backwards. This is still that same parking lot. In fact, there's one of the Universal Studios towers in the background. So we're still at that Barham parking lot at Universal Studios. And take a look at this. This might be our first appearance of a vacuform night plate. So the plates used in Knight Rider were made in a couple different ways. It was either a metal blank plate with glued on letters, or it was a masonite style board with screen printed letters, or it was this style, vacuform. You can always tell if it's a vacuform plate because you can see there's indents for the registration month and year right here. Those were only on the vacuform plates. And in fact, in season 4's Burial Ground, we get a really up close look at one of the vacuform plates. But this is the first time in the series we see them starting to use this style plate as opposed to the other ones. And probably because they were easier to make. And we finished the episode actually back where it started at the very beginning of this episode. This is Falls Lake at Universal Studios on their back lot. I don't know if this is still there or not, but Bonnie, Michael, and Devin are having a picnic. And then, of course, we see Elliott here dressed in his best Michael Knight outfit. This is, as you can probably tell, a different style of black leather jacket. It's not the exact same style. We've got this kind of cavity back here that's open. It looks similar, but it is a little bit different. And then, of course, we have Elliott pulling up in his motorbike, now dressed up as Knerd with a K. This is a 1983 50cc Derby variant moped, and we don't see it again in the series. But also, take a look at, for some reason, KITT right here, this almost looks like one of the high traction drop-down cars, just with the way that tire is and the gap in here. So there's a chance this could be actually one of the two cars we own. Don't know. And then we see a close-up of the scanner there, which is kind of a nice touch, and then of course the plate on the end. This is not a vacuform plate. This is one of those hand cut plates. I can tell that just by looking at it there. And that's all she wrote for Knight and Knerd. Hopefully you learned something of value, something you can share with your friends, your families, maybe even your enemies. I don't know. But we're coming in. We got 4 episodes left in season 3, and I personally am excited about our next commentary episode, 10 Wheel Trouble. Why? Well, 10 Wheel Trouble finally debuts our other screen-used Knight Rider car, the one you may have seen us when we were on Jay Leno's Garage or Good Morning America a couple years ago. That car makes its very first appearance in the series in 10 Wheel Trouble. So I'm super excited to bring that to you and to talk to you about that and all the other neat things in that episode. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments below if you did. If you didn't, I don't want to hear about it. Just kidding. All right, as always, thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.